The city website for additional meeting detail information. Meetings can be viewed via live streaming on YouTube and the city website. The City of London is situated on the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, and the Lenawapak, and the Anawandran. We honor and respect the history, languages, and culture of the diverse Indigenous people who call this territory home. The City of London is currently home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit today. As representatives of the people of the City of London, we are grateful to have the opportunity to work and live in this territory. We do have all committee members present today, as well as a number of visiting councilors. The City of London is committed to making every effort to provide alternative formats and communication supports for meetings upon request. To make a request specific to this meeting, please contact csc@london.ca or 519-661-2489, extension 2425. Looking for disclosures of pecuniary interests. I will start with myself, and I have a conflict on 2.3, and I have already given notice to the clerks. Looking for any others. Okay, not seeing any. I would like to start our consent agenda by a vote to change order. This would move our confidential matter to the first item for direction. Looking for a mover and a seconder. Councillor Cuddy, Councillor Rahman, thank you. And we'll open that for a vote.
Cuddy votes yes.
I am not going to participate in this because I'm not in a secure place. So I'm going to log off and log back on in a few minutes.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Tressa, for letting us know.
Mine seems to be frozen. I vote yes, Councillor Stevenson.
Closing the vote, motion carries 5-0.
Okay, thank you, everyone. So just so we're aware, we have changed the order, so confidential will be the first item of direction. 2.3 has been pulled due to my conflict. That'll be second, and then we also have 2.6, which Councillor Stevenson has requested, so those items will move to for items for direction. So we have 2.1, 2.2, 2.4, and 2.5. If we want to do those as a group, I'm looking for a mover and a seconder. Councillor Cuddy. Councillor Rahman, thank you. Okay, so items 2.1, 2.2, 2.4, and 2.5. That has been moved and seconded. Looking for questions from committee first. Okay, go ahead, Councillor Rahman.
Thank you, and through you. And I just wanted to confirm in item 2.1 for the housekeeping bylaw amendments that the staff feel that what was provided is in the order of more of a may or a shall. When it's supposed to be shall, and when it's supposed to be may, it's may. Does that make sense?
Okay, would staff like to respond? Go ahead. Oh, clerk, sorry, go ahead.
Thank you, through the chair, and that's correct. It just reflects the changes to the legislation.
Okay, follow-up, Councillor?
Thank you. Yes, I just want to ensure that where we have the opportunity to be permissive, we're being permissive, but we're not going above and beyond in any legislative way, where the legislation outlines that it's a possibility that the powers be used, but it's not that we must use the powers.
Okay, go ahead, clerks.
Through the chair, that's correct.
Okay, looking for any other questions from committee? Okay, committee going once, twice, not seeing any. I do have Councillor Purple next. Go ahead.
Thank you, and through the chair to the staff. In regards to 2.1, have we addressed all of them that we are currently with all of them aligned and harmonized, or are there more coming in the future?
To the clerks, go ahead.
Thank you, through the chair. So all of our existing policies have been reviewed. If there are any new policies coming forward or amendments to our current policies, they will be reviewed in light of the changes to the legislation as well.
Okay, follow-up, Councillor.
Thank you for that answer. Next one, 2.4, the banking services agreement. And when I went through it, discussions and consideration, it states to given the acting mayor pursuant to bylaw at numbered. And then when I go to the Schedule 1, and I just wanted to verify this, because the deputy mayor is actually listed only in Section 4, not 2 and 3, and if that was the purpose of this. And also in Section 4, It says any two, but it says city treasurer, but it doesn't say or city treasurer. And if I just can have a clarification on the Schedule 1, please.
Okay, go ahead, staff.
Through the chair to the committee, the bylaw that we're trying to be consistent with is not presented with this bylaw. That bylaw that we're trying to ensure consistency was with the borrowing bylaw that was passed back in December of 2023 for 2024. So this brings our current banking agreement bylaw current with what council had approved back in December 2023. As outlined in Schedule 1, we've identified that we wanted to include the acting mayor as the or, along with the deputy mayor or the deputy city treasurer. So the city treasurer needs to be part of that. That's why there's no or with the city treasurer. Thank you.
Follow-up, Councillor.
Thank you, and that's what I want to know, so thank you for that. So actually, follow up, so any two, but one of them always has to be the city treasurer, correct?
Go ahead, staff.
Correct.
Thank you. Schedule A, the following page, and we are addressing and we are stating only two, for example, over $50,000, and then we are signatures of 7, 8 designated people. Is this compared to the previous one? Is this pool enlarged or is it smaller? And is our kind of the policies more stricter or more open based on these recommendations?
Go ahead, staff.
Through the chair to committee, this is consistent with the protocols that we've had in place prior. Why you're seeing the signatories before you is that we had a position change where a colleague of ours got promoted to the director of capital assets and or corporate assets and finance. So we had that individual replaced, and we're just updating the name for the bank so that they're aware of who will be signing on behalf of the city, and that would be the manager of development finance. There was a change in that position.
Okay, any more questions, Councillor?
Okay, thank you for that. And I have last to 2.5 and the proposal. So the way I understand it is the staff, you're going to come back to us and then potentially this proposal from 0 to 35%. And thank you for doing that table, what it would mean in the history. But when you come back to us, is it going to be kind of a proposal with, again, with certain percentages, which how much it influenced the budget? And that's part of one question. And the second one, it stated that the existing, even if we were to pass it, the existing ones would not be able to apply, would not be able to be part of the potential reduction. And my question is, they would not even be able to apply. Is that correct?
Go ahead, staff.
Through the chair to committee, for the first question, you are correct. As part of the 2025 tax policy expectation report, Civic Administration will bring forward a number of scenarios outlining the different tax policy items that council can decide upon. One of the options would be the inclusion of the new multi-residential subclass, in which case council will be able to see what the implications are to the other property classes that are taxed, because as identified in the report, there will be a potential shift in what that impact would be to all the other property classes, be it residential, the existing new multi-residential, the multi-residential plus the commercial and industrial. So we will be providing options for councils to consideration, with one of the options certainly being this new multi-residential subclass with what the various discounts could look like. And we may just provide one or two to see what the appetite is from council. That will provide council the opportune time to advise Civic Administration how they would like to see the tax policy come forward later in March or April. With regards to your second question, this bylaw would not apply to existing development or existing properties. This new subclass would only pertain to buildings that have yet had a building permit pulled. So we first need to approve the bylaw to establish the new multi-residential subclass, and then only after that, once the building permit is pulled, will those properties be afforded that potential discount.
Follow-up, Counselor?
Thank you very much. No more questions.
Okay, any other questions on those 4 items? Okay, seeing none, we will put, that's 2.1, 2.2, 2.4, and 2.5. That'll be open for voting one moment.
Closing the vote, motion carries 5-0.
Okay, we have no scheduled items. We are on to items for direction. We do have the confidential to do first, so I'm looking for a motion to go in camera. Okay, Councillor Cuddy, Councillor Stevenson, thank you. We'll open that for voting.
Closing the vote, motion carries 5-0.
Okay, just a moment to shuffle some folks around.
Recording.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. So our first item is 4.1, which is issuance of proclamations, and I believe Councillor Rahman has a motion she'd like to put forward. So would you like to move it, and then I'll look for a seconder?
Yes, thank you. I'll move the motion that I've provided. If you'd like me to read it, let me know.
Okay, well, I'll just look for a seconder. Okay, Councillor Stevenson. Okay, and go ahead, Councillor Rahman.
Thank you. The motion reads, the civic administration be directed to cease the issuance of proclamations through a resolution and rescission of the issuance of proclamations policy, and B, the report dated September 16, 2024 with respect to this matter be received.
Okay, thank you. Do you want to give some comments to it? Go ahead.
Thank you, and I want to thank my seconder as well. I just wanted to take a moment to thank staff for the report that's in front of us and the quick turnaround on this report. I know that this is something that we've been discussing, trying to decide how to move forward with proclamations, and I think that what's in front of us today, the option to cease issuing proclamations, I understand maybe not something that the entirety of the community may want, but I do think that there still remains many opportunities for us as members of council to continue to recognize dates of importance. And so I will look to use those options when needed. But I do think that the issuance of proclamations, as we've seen through the report, it's something that some municipalities do and some do not. And I'm pleased to move this motion today to take us into an era where perhaps we're doing other forms of recognition that seem more appropriate in this day and age.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Looking for other committee members who'd like to comment? Okay, go ahead, Councillor Van Meerbergen.
Thank you, Chair. I'm sure most of us remember that it wasn't that long ago we did not issue proclamations in the City of London for almost, I think, a little over 2 decades. And it was a policy that served us well then, and it's a policy that will serve us well now. So thank you to the councillor for bringing forward this motion. I certainly endorse it myself. I would have brought up this motion or something similar myself if that hadn't happened. But it makes perfect sense. And again, I'm wholeheartedly behind it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Looking for any other comments? Okay, I'm not seeing any. We can over this for voting.
Closing the vote, motion carries 5-0.
Okay, sorry, before we get to 2.3, I do just need to Councillor Cuddy just to report out from closed session.
Thank you. I will assume the chair and recognize Councillor McAllister.
No, sorry, we're just doing reporting
Excuse me,
out.
I'm so sorry. I'm ahead of myself. I was so excited about becoming chair for a few minutes, I just jumped. So, reporting out, Chair. We met in confidential session at 1:14. We discussed matters of confidential significance, and we made progress on those matters, and we completed at 1:15. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Cuddy. And now, yes, I will be handing the chair to you to discuss item 2.3. And just letting you know, we do have members from OEG in the gallery. If you do have any questions, they're here to speak with us. Okay, so the chair is yours.
Thank you, Chair. Recognizing you, Councillor McAllister.
Yes, declaring my conflict, so I will be abstaining from this vote, but yeah, go ahead on your discussion.
Thank you. We'll proceed with any, do we have any questions on this matter, or should we go for a, well, yes, please. Councillor Stevenson.
Oh, you need to move it in a seconder.
Yeah, I'm willing to move the motion.
Thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Rahman, thank you. Going to questions? Councillor Rahman, thank you.
Thank you. I feel like we're talking right now about the thing that everybody's been talking about all week. So first, I just want to say what an exciting opportunity to get to support this here at committee. You know, no matter what we call this building, and I hope that it'll catch, to be honest with you, a new name. But no matter what we call it, it holds a special place in so many people's hearts in this city. And I do think it's a proud part of our city's legacy, and very happy to see a new commitment and a new era starting once this goes through council. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Rahman. Going to Councillor Pribble.
Just to let you know, sorry, Councillor Van Meerbergen did have his hand up.
Okay, Councillor Pribble yields to Councillor Van Meerbergen.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I can't believe the amount of time that's gone by since we changed from the John Labatt Center to Budweiser Gardens. And now here we are with another one and another change. And from all accounts, it looks like a pretty darn good deal for our community and for London as a whole. So I particularly like to comment on the fact that the average deals that are worked out of this nature for naming rights are less than 8 years, according to the report. And we're getting a 10-year, which is absolutely outstanding. We also are getting a bump up of almost 50% in revenues by separating out the pouring rights from the naming rights. Again, also excellent. What I would like to see, however, and I'll ask Ms. Barbon, if we could get maybe a little bit more detail in terms of the dollar figures that we're looking at for revenues, if perhaps Ms. Barbon could comment on that.
Ms. Bourbon.
Thank you through the chair. So just in terms of answering the question, a bit of background on the Budweiser Gardens and soon to be with a new name. That partnership between the three parties is something that the City of London has, through all of the various agreements, contracted with OVG to operate the facility. So as part of operating the facility, there are many contractual third-party agreements that they utilize directly and are able to negotiate directly and have terms directly between the third party and OVG. The City of London is not a party to those contracts, and that's one of the reasons why that specific amount of revenue for the contractual obligations is not disclosed publicly, because that is certainly commercially sensitive information that would be within the sponsors and the OVG contractual agreements. In order to disclose that information, OVG would need to go back to the sponsors and obtain their consent before disclosing that information. So certainly that's not something that we're able to provide you today, but if OVG is able to get that consent, it is certainly something that we could report out in confidential session to council when this comes forward next week.
Councillor, follow-up?
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Ms. Barbon. So just to clarify, we may have some further detail regarding revenues for an in-camera session at the council meeting next week.
Through the chair, that's correct. If OVG is able to get the consent of the sponsors to be able to disclose that confidentially to the council, they could provide that information and I would be able to report out at the council meeting if that was achieved. So certainly from a financial, the third party is ultimately OVG is responsible for the operations, and the City of London reaps those benefits at the end of the day. What the net cash flow, the city is able to receive the 70% amount of that. So we ultimately get a share of the proceeds in terms of how well they do. So it's a good news story, and certainly when we reported out this year, we had a very phenomenal year in the last year, and this revenue would form each and every year annually over the next 10 years through the term of the rights. So we will certainly look to see if OVG can get that consent so we could provide that information to council.
Okay, that's,
Councillor, follow-up?
yes, thank you, Chair. That's excellent. Look forward to that. I did want to make final comment that I think the name is quite classy and fits with London, Ontario's heritage, certainly when it comes to financial institutions, and including insurance. I think that is just an outstanding name, and we all look forward to the next 10 years. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Van Meerbergen, and you have 2 minutes left. Thank you. Councillor Preble.
Thank you, and just a very brief comment. Thank you, OVG 360, and I think that really with the 49.5% increase, that's a great opportunity maximization. It is a fantastic facility that does so much for our community and for downtown and for all the businesses. So thank you for that, and thank you for the maximization opportunity, not just for you, but for our municipality as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Preble. Deputy Mayor Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer. And as a guest of the committee, I'm going to be really brief as well. I agree with everything that's been said so far. I am really, really pleased that we have found a naming sponsor with such deep roots in the London community. I think that really is an important part of what we have before us today. Because Londoners themselves have such an attachment to this building. So many great memories that so many, really hundreds of thousands of people have made over the course of the life of this building already, with many more to come. And I know that there will be a great celebration of the unveiling of the new name very shortly at the venue itself. And it goes hand in glove. The timing is perfect with the renovations that we are seeing already. The new score clock is in, the suites have been renovated, the building is looking better than it ever has, and I know that's just phase one of quite a bit of work that's still ahead, with new concessions coming and back of house improvements that will not only enhance the visitor experience at the building, but also be a return on investment that increases the city's revenues in the long run, as well as our partners in the build. I just wanted to take a moment to recognize that this is such a momentous day, that Mr. Ohl has found a day out of his retirement to come back and join us in the gallery alongside Miss Austin. I know that both of you have been working on this as the roles have transitioned from you, Brian, to Kelly, who's off to a great start, by the way, as our GM and your successor. So thank you both for all the work that went into this. I know this has been a little bit of a labor of both love, but also of tough negotiations to getting us to where we are today. So while I don't get to vote here, I will absolutely be supporting this at council, and look forward to coming down to Canada Life Place to take in a hockey game in the near future.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Lewis. Any further questions or comments? Well, I will take a moment, and I'd like to thank Mr. Ohl for the years of service, and Ms. Kelly for the work you're doing. And not to repeat what Deputy Mayor Lewis said, but what a jewel we have in our downtown. I mean, we really do. We have one of the greatest facilities in this country. And I'm so glad we've all recognized it, and we will continue to recognize it through its new naming. And thank you, staff, for the work you've done on this. Chair, I'll call a vote. Thank you.
Closing the vote, motion carries 4-0 with 1 recuse.
Thank you. I will now return the chair to Councillor McAllister.
Thank you. Good job, Councillor Cuddy. Appreciate it. We are on to 2.6. This is the Standing Committees and Forums, Federation of Canadian Municipalities, and this is Councillor Trosso's. I'm going to look, unless, okay, Councillor Stevenson, do you want a question first or a comment? It hasn't been moved. There's nothing moved yet. So I'm just...
Yeah, I was going to make a motion to receive and take no action.
Okay, is there a seconder for that? Okay, Councillor Cuddy. Okay, it's been moved and seconded, so looking for questions or comments. Okay, go ahead, Councillor Stevenson.
Thanks. Yes, I just wanted to explain my reason for this. We just recently, less than 3 months ago, reduced our councillor expenses by $1,500. And while I didn't support that, it was the will of council to reduce our expenses. And that was $1,500 per person. It was $21,000, of which we had not used anyway. So we really didn't do anything with that motion except cap what really hadn't been used in the past previously. So having done that, and then when I look at this list, while I support my colleague in being on the standing committee, the annual conference fee for FCM is already covered for all councillors. And the travel expenses, we had discussed at a governance working group about covering all of our travel expenses for that conference, which I did support, and that failed. So all of us technically should, would want to be at FCM. I don't see why we would start making one-off exceptions here when the intent of council was to reduce the expenses. 2 are virtual meetings, 1 is a day in Ottawa. So that's the only thing that would be different than the rest of us would be intending to go to, and I think that can be covered within the council expenses. All of us have advocacy efforts that we want to do. They may or may not be FCM or AMO, but we all have stuff that we want to do that, requires us to attend meetings and conferences. And so I would like to continue on with what I believe was the intention of council, which was to limit the expenses.
Okay, looking for any other committee members to comment first?
Yes, if I could say a word.
Just looking for committee members first, Councillor Trosso, and then I'll get to you, okay? So one moment.
Sure.
Okay, I'm not seeing any. Okay, so go ahead, Councillor Trosso.
Yeah, it's certainly not my intention to ask council for additional money outside of my expenses. And I'm sorry if the motion was not clear. It would be my intention to underwrite any additional expenses from my own personal account, expense account, which I have plenty of room in. So I just don't think this is good. I'm not asking the council for additional money. And if you'd like to clarify the motion to say that, as a practical matter, if you don't pass this today, it's going to be very difficult for me to get this appointment, because today was actually the deadline for what people thought was a routine resolution. They know this will be a little late because it's coming to council, but I just think this would really undermine my ability to do this extra service. And I do want to make it really clear that I am not asking for any additional funding. This would come other than the FCM meeting, which we can all go to. This would come from my personal account. And that's what I wanted to say.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Trosso, for that clarification. I do have Councillor Rahman next. Go ahead.
Thank you, and through you. So my understanding of the intention here was that Councillor Trosso was asking us to endorse his serving on the FCM Standing Committees and Forums for the 2024-2025 term, which I wholeheartedly support and appreciate the councillors stepping forward to serve on these types of committees. I think where it gets a little bit challenging is part B. It kind of reads like he's looking for the opportunity to expense some additional expenditures associated with Advocacy Day. But what I heard very clearly from the councillor is his clarification that he's just looking to use his annual expense account for those expenses. So if that's the case, can we just work on amending the language, if my colleagues are amenable to that, to reflect that he's just looking for us to endorse his participation in the committees. He will use his expense account to be able to do so. Is that I just want to make sure with Councillor Trasso that's clear, and if so, if committee members are amenable to making those changes.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Okay, just one moment. I'm just clarifying with the clerks what we need to do here. One moment. Okay, so we need to defeat this, just in terms of the language, how it's worded. So we'd have to defeat it and then put forward an amended motion. Okay, so we're going to open the current motion that's on the floor. And again, for clarification, you need to defeat it to put an amendment to the original motion. Go ahead, Councilor Rahman.
Okay, just for clarification, should we separate A and B? So we still endorse A.
Yeah, the motion was just to receive, so that's why there's no A and B of part of this one.
Okay, gotcha.
Councilor Stevenson, go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that B clearly says that it be approved for reimbursement by the Corporation of the City of London outside of his annual expense allocation. So with the understanding that this is not the intent, then I will vote no on this motion, defeat it, and see what comes forward.
Okay, thank you. We're going to open that for voting.
Closing the vote, motion fails, 0-5.
Okay, so now we're back to not having anything, but from the conversation we've had, I would look for someone to put forward a motion that explicitly lays out exactly kind of what Councilor Trasso and Councilor Rahman explained in terms of this being incurred as part of the councilor's existing expense budget. So go ahead, Councilor Rahman.
Thank you. So I think what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to move the original Part A and amend the Part B to read that it's funded through his own budget. Council expense.
Just give us one moment to get the language. Can I get a seconder? Actually, I will second it. The clerk's going to read out the motion. Just one moment.
Through the chair, the amendment reads that Part B of the motion be amended to read as follows. All associated costs to attend the Board of Directors meeting and the AGM for the 2024-2025 be incurred as part of the councilor's annual expense allocation. It being noted that the meeting dates include, etc.
Okay, so this is an amendment to the original motion, so we'd vote on this, and then we'd have to vote on the amended motion. But Councilor Stevenson, you wanted to speak?
Yeah, only to say that I'd like to second that motion just so that it's clear that I'm in support of it.
Okay, I can change that. It's not a problem. Did anyone else want to speak to this? Okay, not seeing any, so we'll open the amendment for voting.
Closing the vote, motion carries 5-0.
Okay, so now we are on the as amended main motion. Looking for a mover and a seconder on that. Just with the same. Okay, Councilor Rahman. I'll go with Councilor Stevenson again. So we'll open that for voting in a moment. 1 second.
Closing the vote, motion passes 5-0.
Okay, we have no deferred matters. We moved our confidential, so we are on to adjournment. So looking for a motion to adjourn. Okay, Councilor Stevenson, Councilor Cuddy, all those in favor, hand vote. Any opposed?
Motion passes.
Okay, thanks everyone. Have a good day.